You must be coaching how many CEO or leaders?
Probably with 5,000 or 7,000 executives.
Wow.
And a lot of CEOs over-index on the brain. As long as I am intelligent, I'm a good CEO. But they disregard the spiritual or the emotional dimension, or they don't take care of themselves. Then they're not fully integrated.
But for the heart and the soul, it's really abstract.
You have a child, a young
Yes.
daughter. Do you have KPIs for her? Do you take her in your arms and you say, today, I love you 7 out of... So everybody knows that. We cross the door of our office. We leave the heart outside. Carl Jung, if I can quote a little bit of Western psychology, Carl Jung would call that the process of individuation, of becoming a full human being.
The Secret Sauce
สวัสดีครับผมเคนนักครินทร์และนี่คือ The Secret Sauce
What's your secret?
Okay, Kun Yam, here's our guest, Mr. Fabrice. As you mentioned many times about his expertise, I think he is the author of a book called Art of Retreat, helping CEOs and their team to reach their potential of both performance and consciousness. And I think you have years of experience in executive coaching, self-development, and finding inner peace. So thank you for joining us.
No, thank you for inviting me. It's very nice to be here. I love coming to Bangkok.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And you talk about his leadership and his expertise many times. Could you briefly introduce yourself and your role?
Well, I'm a partner at McKinsey. I look after our leadership practice in Asia. And so my role is to work with CEOs and their teams and the next generations of leaders to develop them. So with CEOs, it's finding the balance between performance and purpose. With teams, it's building greater effectiveness so the teams can work better together. And with the next generation of leaders, it's to prepare them to take the higher office of becoming senior executives and potentially CEOs. So that's my professional life. My personal life, I'm French. I grew up in Paris. I left France a long time ago, and I've been living in Asia for almost 30 years.
Wow.
I live in Singapore. I'm married. I have a 25-year-old daughter.
Wow.
Who studies psychology. So we have very interesting conversations now. And I have 3 dogs.
Oh, wow. So how did you get to this point? I mean, can you walk us through your career journey?
I'll do that very, very quickly.
Okay.
I was a consultant, a McKinsey Partner in my 30s. When I reached 40, I started asking myself questions about what is it that I really want to do with my life.
Wow.
That led to a series of reflections. By then, I had left McKinsey and I had become a senior executive in a bank. I was running a large division of a bank. And I was not finding true satisfaction and true meaning in that role. So even though from the outside I looked very successful,
Yes.
Inside I was not finding inner peace or inner fulfillment. And that prompted a reflection about what is it that I'm really meant to do? What is it that gives me a sense of purpose, a sense of fulfillment, and will, in a way, justify my existence on Earth? So that prompted a reflection, and to keep the story short, I completely changed careers. And I went into working with senior executives to help them develop their careers. So I worked in executive search, recruiting senior executives, and then progressively transformed my practice towards coaching individuals and coaching teams and developing the next generation of leaders.
You must be coaching how many CEO or leaders? Hundreds? Thousand?
Probably interacted one-on-one in some form of shape, probably with 5,000 or 7,000 executives.
Wow.
And
And
in
you
a
have a lot of
direct
database in your head.
and in a direct long-term relationship of me supporting the CEO or supporting their team, probably a few hundreds.
Wow, wow. I think it was a life-changing moment for you. Switch your career from, managing organization, strategy to managing people and focus on your inner peace and helping someone else to find their peace and consciousness, something like that. So I think we should start our conversation by talking about this book, CEO Excellence, the 6 mindsets that distinguish the best leader from the rest. And we had a conversation with Kun Yam about the first one. First and foremost, we should focus on ourselves. So managing personal effectiveness. So could you elaborate on this?
Well, the first thing I want to say is that personal effectiveness is a foundation, but it's not the ultimate goal. I think personal effectiveness is the foundation so that we as senior leaders can really have the best impact on the organizations we're leading. And for that, personal effectiveness, and we can double click on what personal effectiveness means, but is a means to an end. But ultimately, there is no fulfillment if we're not putting ourselves in the service of something that is greater than us, right? I mean, you have built a company.
Right.
This is not for yourself. It's to develop a company, to have an impact on through your media, on the population of the country. You take care of your employees. There's something much greater than yourself here. There's millions of people who are following what you do, right? So it's not about you. You are the enabler of this. And for me, this personal effectiveness is the enabler. Now, if you don't work on your personal effectiveness, which maybe we can summarize to say, you're not fully integrated as a human being, right? You haven't fully integrated the different dimensions, the physical dimension, the emotional dimension, the mental dimension, and the spiritual dimension. If you're out of sync, or if one dimension, for example, the mental dimension is over-dimensioned, and dare I say, some of our McKinsey colleagues, over-index on the brain at the expense of other dimensions. And a lot of CEOs over-index on the brain. As long as I am intelligent, I'm a good CEO. But they disregard the spiritual or the emotional dimension, or they don't take care of themselves physically. Then they're not fully integrated. So I think the personal effectiveness is about this integration of the self.
Wow.
Right? Carl Jung, and if I can quote a little bit of Western psychology, Carl Jung would call that the process of individuation, of becoming a full human being. Right? The mind, the body, the heart, and the soul.
Oh, wow.
Okay? And it's by integrating these 4 dimensions that you can reach a stage of, say, let's call it personal effectiveness. So personal effectiveness is not about having more meetings in a day, right?
Right.
That's not it, right? Let's be clear. But it has to be in service of something that is greater than you.
Wow, interesting and very amazing. I really interested our word enabler. So we should focus as not just an individual, but enabler for the company.
Yeah.
And you said about the 4 pillar: head, right? Head, heart, body,
and soul.
And soul. For the body and the head, I think everyone really, get used to this. But for the heart and the soul, it's really abstract. So how should we start to cultivate?
It's not so abstract, Ken. It's not abstract. You have a child, a young daughter,
Yes.
right? I heard that she looks like you.
Twins.
Do you have KPIs for her? Like, for example, how old is she now?
8 months.
8 months. Do you take her in your arms and you say, today, I love you 7 out of 10 because you cried a little bit too much?
No.
It comes straight from the heart.
Unconditional love.
So we're all very familiar with that.
Oh.
Everybody can understand that. You also have a child, Kunya.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So we all understand that. And if you don't have children, you have parents and you have friends. There's always a dimension that is associated with our well-being, which is how do we relate to others, which is not a dimension of the mind, but a dimension of the heart. So everybody knows that. For some reason, from the moment we cross the door of our office, we leave the heart outside. Right? It's just the soul. Everybody understands that there's some things that move me. I look at a painting and I'm moved. I watch a sunset and I'm moved, right? You cannot rationalize it. Oh, this is, I will give, 65% score to this sunset. No, you're just being moved. There's no KPI, there's no objectives, there's no milestones. You're just in awe of the sunset. I think we can all relate to that, whether it's a sunset, the nature, a lake, a mountain, a crowd event. You go to a concert,
Right.
and suddenly the whole crowd starts moving together, right? This is really something that speaks to the soul. A company can start moving together if it's connected from the soul, right?
Wow, interesting. So how should we integrate the heart and the soul into our daily work or in our organization that everyone aim to perform all the time?
Well, I'm a believer that human beings are naturally gifted to connect with these four dimensions. If you really think of where we come from, right, and how as a species we have developed, right, it is by integrating these four dimensions, always. We live in communities, that's the heart, right? We create purpose and meaning, right, which allows us to keep progressing towards a higher goal, right? That's the soul. Then we take care of our physical need, that's the body. And we, as conscious beings, we think, okay, what is tomorrow going to look like? Do I have enough food for tomorrow? Do I need to go hunting, etc.? So that's the mind. And we naturally evolved to have these four dimensions.
Well, Fabrice, question is that because exactly what you said, right? It's like by default these days, many of the leaders are too much on one side,
the
which
numbers.
is the numbers and the size and all those, right? How do you actually help them expand and into the other three dimensions and be more wholesome? What's the techniques that you use?
Well, as a coach, my job is really easy. I just sit down and smile and listen.
It's not easy.
Occasionally, I ask a question. But joke aside, it is simply by raising awareness, asking people, how do you feel? And do you feel balanced? Do you feel that your life is complete? And people very intuitively will say, well, business is doing really well, but I'm feeling a little bit off. I'm not spending enough time with the family. I don't have time to exercise, so I'm not feeling so well, etc. And if they're working for a large organization, sometimes they say, look, I feel out of sync with the organization. We're proclaiming some values, but we don't live them, right? Which speaks to the soul, really. And so I say, well, okay, let's explore this, right? And we can explore all these dimensions and say, well, what's working and what is not working. So it's a process of discovery, of increasing awareness of these dimensions. All the leaders I work with are obviously very accomplished, very smart, very driven individuals. They want to find out. And it doesn't take very long for them to really open up to the dimensions that somehow, since they were at university and they studied in business, etc., all these dimensions have been pushed to the side because we have convinced them that the mind was the only thing that mattered. Right? The truth is the only thing that matters. But the truth is not alone. Right? The truth of the numbers. Right? You need also to focus about what is good. So ethics and morals and what has a positive impact. So, the Greek philosophers had this, the truth, the beauty, and the goodness. And in the business world, we only have what is true. And even that we can debate whether we are really measuring the right things, etc. Right? But we're completely focused on an outer, objective reality. So the work that I do with leaders and with teams is to simply raise awareness of this. And then very naturally they say, okay, I get it. How do I re-inject a dose of heart in what I do.
So what can you give example of how the CEO have some of them that shift?
Yeah.
What do they inject?
So a recent example that comes to mind, I'm working with a wonderful individual who's the group CFO of a large Asian company. And he connects with people on the mind level because he's very competent. He's very good with
brain,
numbers,
you
the
mean the
brain.
brain.
Yeah, the brain, the mind dimension. And I say, look, connect with the heart. Oh, how do I do that? Well, first of all, you have a family, you have children, so obviously, you know what the heart is. But I say, look, invite your people one-on-one and sit down with them. And instead of asking them, what's the numbers, what's the problem, how are you doing?
Very simple.
How's your life these days? What's going on? And at the beginning, people will be very
Yeah, he
suspicious,
must
like,
be
hey,
like-
boss, is there something wrong with you?
It's
Because you've never done
common
that.
sense to talk about this in
What does
office.
he want? There's an agenda. But as people get used to it, spend time connecting with people as people. Don't see people as means to an end. See people as people. Connect with them, just like you would with a friend. And that changes completely the dynamics. But it takes time, right? This is not
Right.
something that you change overnight.
It is really interesting, and I think for our audience who want to improve their skills and their life as well, so how should they start? I mean, that CEO has a life-changing moment from your coaching, something like that. But if we want to start now, okay, we realize this 4 dimension is really important for us. But if we want to, do it at home, do it at our office, so what is your recommendations?
Yeah, I have 2 very simple ideas that I share with my clients. The first one is it's always a very good idea to get feedback. Speak, because we're very good at seeing what's wrong in others, but we're very bad at seeing what's wrong in us. And I say wrong not as a negative judgment, but we all have areas where we're stronger and areas where
Right.
where we're weaker, right? And so as human beings, we're very, very good at spotting the areas where others could improve. But we're very bad at spotting that in ourselves. So have feedback. So that's starting point number 1. Starting point number 2, start spending time in silence and solitude by yourself. It's a fundamental tool to start reflecting, processing what is going on inside. Spend time looking at how are you feeling, what is going on, what are the things that are kind of in the back of your mind that you not necessarily quite acknowledge, but that you should address, right? Have a journal, right? I see Kunyam has a diary, right? Keep note of what is going on for you. What is your experience? What inspires you? What annoys you? Keep track of these things, because that is the start of a process of self-discovery, right? And take it from there. Some people will want to develop the spiritual side because they feel that, my life is a bit blah, I don't know why I'm doing this, I'm not inspired, I'm not motivated. But that's a fundamental lack of spiritual, direction, right? What will keep me fulfilled? What keeps me engaged? For other people, it could be, I haven't been taking care of my body. Right? I don't sleep well enough, I drink too much, I smoke, I don't exercise, whatever it is. So, okay, small steps. What am I going to do? Do I go to the gym, 30 minutes every day? Do I improve my eating habits? Do I try to go to bed a bit earlier? Whatever it is, right? Every person will find different aspects that they can start working on. For me, it was the realization that even though I have a lot of people in my relationships, I wasn't actually really connecting sufficiently with my friends, my close friends, right? Of which the list is not very long, right? It's 10, 15 individuals that are really important for me. And because, some are far away and some, even though they live in Singapore, we don't see each other enough. I realized I was a little bit disconnected from my friends. So whatever it is, whichever dimension, the soul, the body, the heart, the mind is that you want to work on, start with small steps.
I really like your suggestion and small tips, right? Because I personally, right, I also got executive coach, like someone coached me, right?
Not me?
At lunch. So when I have that, right, I think exactly that, right? The first thing is that they talk to the people around me and not just my co-workers, not just subordinates and boss and everything. They also talk to my sister. He talked to my sister, my husband,
Your family.
my kid. So basically after that, right, and then I have like many days of talking. He let me talk a lot, right? But what I found it very interesting is the reflection that the coach provide me, and it's not just about negative things. He also point out what is my superpower or what is actually the energy or the strengths that I have that I didn't know that was positive that people like, and also pointing out my weak point or what actually missing, right? And that was for me is a aha, right? That I am not aware of. So I think that was a very helpful, right? I also add on top of that is I asked one of my subordinates, asking her to interview everyone might be helpful in the company in order to help also provide me that, hey, people didn't dare to tell you, but these are the things they wish they get from you. I think that was good starting point from professional side. And then for me, the other side was exactly the reflection of myself, right? At the beginning, end of the year, I always have the New Year resolutions. And then I keep writing what I want in life. Even the first page, I always have journey. So my journals, right? My first page is like what I want in life was my first sentence. And then I write down. And that was a lot about health, it's a lot about kids. And then I list out what I want from that dimension as well. With those two combinations, it's actually helped me a lot in being much more balanced, both professional and personal side. But I felt like it is a very good suggestion, which is if you don't know the feedback, sometimes you only do the other side, which is whatever you think by yourself. But that feedback is maybe one thing is that you ask for it, it's quite hard. Sometimes ask someone else to ask for you is quite interesting.
I totally agree with you, but at the beginning, it can be painful and awkward. And how to build trust around your people is very difficult for me. So I want to ask both of you this question. How can we build trust and psychological safety in our company? I know feedback is really crucial right now, but how should we start?
You have to understand what creates trust. And there's a few dimensions. The first one is if we're going to work together, I need to know that you're competent. You know what you're doing. You need to know that I'm competent. Because I could be the nicest guy on earth, but if I'm incompetent, it's going to be difficult for you to trust me. So professional competence, I'm talking about the professional context here, right? Is important. Similar dimension is what I call reliability. You're doing what you say you will do. You deliver what you say you will deliver. You keep your promises. You show up on time. It's not a small thing, right? If the meeting starts at 9 a.m., you don't show up at 9:05 and say, it was difficult to find a taxi, right? You show up at 8:55. So this kind of behaviors is what creates trust. But to a certain extent, every senior leader will be decent at these things because otherwise they would not become senior leaders.
Right.
Senior leader who's incompetent, that may exist, but it's fairly rare.
Right.
Completely unreliable, again, this may exist, but this is very rare because typically if you're not competent or not reliable, you don't rise. So people I work with tend to be pretty good on these two dimensions. Where they're really bad is the other two dimensions that are kind of below the surface. One is what I call intimacy. Do I know you as a human being? Do you know me as a human being? Or are we just professionals?
Oh.
So I want to know where you're coming from. I want to know what inspires you. I want to know what you do in your free time. I want to know the struggles you're having. And by opening up and being vulnerable, I can get to know you not just as a professional, but I get to know you as a human being. And I do the same with me. I open up, I share my vulnerabilities. And then you start knowing me as a human being. And we all have our vulnerabilities. We all have gone through pain, grief, sadness, anger, failures. And so when I work with teams, I ask everyone to start sharing their failures, for example. If you share your successes, yeah, everybody can do that. Oh, I'm so good. When I was 25, I built this business and we sold it for that. And then I did this and I achieved these wonderful results. And look at me, I'm so good, I'm so competent. No, that doesn't create trust. Trust is, when I was 40, I went through a crisis and I lost my sense of meaning. Because everybody can relate to that. Everybody has gone through the similar, we all go through similar experiences of pain, of grief, of loss. And so by sharing that, we create trust. So intimacy. The other one that is very often forgotten is generosity. I'm going to do things for you that have no benefit for me. And that is, sometimes it's rare in the corporate world. Now, generosity can be, you talked about it earlier, Kunyam, generosity of feedback. Hey, in that meeting, I noticed that you interrupted the other person twice. Maybe watch for it because it's disrupting her flow of thinking, for example. That's generous feedback. So when I build teams, I don't spend too much time on credibility and reliability because they're all there. They're all senior executives. They all have done very well because they had this conscientiousness, this professional competence. But they're sometimes not very aware of these other two dimensions. And so we work on these dimensions. How are we going to be generous with each other? What help do you offer the others on the team? What help do you need from them? And people are usually very happy to help, right? And building intimacy. Let's share, our journey of life. Let's share what's going on in the background. Where it's interesting to know, what is going well in your life, but it's probably more touching to know what is not going so well in your life, and because then I can relate it to the things that are not going so well for me as well.
I think Kun Ken, I was drawing this because what actually Kun Fabrice just mentioned. At McKinsey, we really believe in this trust. We call it trust equation. Trust equation is exactly what he described, which is about the credibility, which is your competence, times reliability, because you need to be able to be reliable, but time intimacy. This is very important. If you have this, everything is zero.
Right.
Because it's time zero. If everything you're smart, you're reliable, but then you're not empathy, you don't have any intimacy, then it's become zero. But another one that I found it very interesting is the divider. Is even though you have everything, but if you are self-oriented, you're selfish.
You're not generous.
You're not generous.
You're not generous.
If you're not generous, it's a divider. If you're not generous, you are self-oriented. Everything is divided because you are self. The more generous you are, this is even higher. The trust is higher. So we actually talk a lot about this. We call it trust equation.
You see, Ken, this typical McKinsey. They do equations for everything.
Yeah.
I stopped using that
I love
years
that.
ago.
Easy to understand.
But I just like it
for
because
the
it's
logical
always in
people.
my...
I stopped using that years ago because I realized my clients didn't understand fractions.
I love it so much. I was like, yeah, it's a divider. Oh yeah, it's time zero. It's good. Bad.
Yeah.
No, but I found it interesting is that exactly what he said, right? Credibility, which is your competency, and your reliability is typically more or less you have it.
Right.
And that's why I felt that when you say, oh, how could I create trust? In big corporate, to be honest, I felt like you have to minimum have this at certain level.
Yes.
And some people, even though you're not so credible, like not the most competent, but you're so reliable.
Yes.
You do it on time. You make sure everything is quite okay. But to make everything a multiplier effect is actually intimacy, right? And the generosity, right? And it just somehow I think that was where people forgot, and people only focus on the hard side, and forgot the multiplier,
Right.
Which is the more important.
Completely agree, and I think these days people are setting the boundary, with work and life, professional life and personal life, and then they don't want to open their life. But you try to say that it's really crucial right now that someday you can be vulnerable, you can open your pain, your struggle, something like that, and it will multiply your career or your performance.
And it's a fundamental step towards building something collectively as a team.
So as a coach, from your experience, what are the main challenges? What are the main difficulties that we might face in this process, building trust?
Of building trust and high-performing team. Well, the first challenge, and by far the biggest challenge, is to convince the CEO that they should dedicate time to this.
Okay.
And that's a big topic, is the absence of time. People are rushed, they're always busy, they're always struggling to find time. And when I work with the CEO and I say, well, be really good to take your team for 2 days or 3 days and let's go off-site, let's go someplace where, there's a nice environment, nature, we can relax, we can walk together on the beach or by the river. They say, well, where am I going to find 2 days? That's something seriously wrong, by the way, about not being able to find 2 days with your top team to work on the team, not to work on the business. Sometimes, it's easy. Oh, let's go to, a hotel nearby and we'll spend 2 days looking at the budget.
Right.
Yeah, everybody likes to spend time working on the business. And I'm not saying don't do that. It's important. But it is probably more important at the beginning to spend time working on the team. But then we get all the objections about, we don't have time for this. So that's the biggest challenge, is to help CEOs realize that investing time with the team to work on the team is as important as the team working on the business.
And what's your trick to convince?
Well, look, I always say I can bring the donkey to the river, but I cannot force it to drink, right? So I do what I can to explain why this will change the dynamics. I have plenty of case studies now of clients that we have supported on multi-year journeys, and we can measure very objectively how the team dynamics improve from a collection of individuals to a collective with a single consciousness. We can measure it very objectively because CEOs love numbers, so I can show them the numbers. I can say, this is the start of the journey in 20. And so if you allow me and my colleagues at McKinsey to work with you on this journey, we will create a journey that combines looking at the business and looking at the team dynamics. And when we bring this collective dynamics with performance, then, the sky is the limit, right? One example is a client that we have served for more than 2 years now. And they've made fantastic improvements on team performance. They really reached a point where there's one collective consciousness, and they've done extremely well. I mean, look just by the share price, the average stock market in that country has done plus 17%, and they've done more than 80%. So, they have generated amazing results.
At the end of this conversation, I would like to focus on ourselves as an individual. And I heard that you are the yoga guru, meditation, something like that. So we try to, build our energy by, finding the silence, solitude, as you mentioned earlier. So would it be possible to, start a meditation right now or give a mock-up, a sample for anyone?
Yeah, we can do a very short one, and I do that with the CEO Excellence participants and my clients. It's simply to bring your awareness to your breath, right? So if you want, we do it together now for 1 minute.
Sure.
Yeah, and
Everyone in this room.
and everyone can just follow. But you sit with your back straight, right? Because that gives you a sense of stability, right? If you lean forward or you're on the side, then you're not stable, right? So the first and pretty much the only key to bringing your awareness inward and finding calm is just to sit with the back straight. And once your back is straight, so the weight of the head goes into the neck, goes into the back, the spine, the sitting bones, right? Then you can close your eyes. And simply bring your awareness to the breath. Take one deep inhale and a long, slow exhale. And now let your breath return to its natural pace, and you are just the observer. You're not trying to control it. You're not trying to change it. You're just observing your breath. And if you're interrupted by thoughts, that's perfectly normal. So don't feel bad about that. Everybody has thoughts. Just let them go. Notice the thoughts and let them go and come back to the breath.
I think one word that came up to my mind is observe. You use this word quite a lot. So what do you mean by that?
Observe. Just become aware. And let go of your urge to try to change things. Just be aware of what is without trying. We're always, and to a certain extent, that's what made us successful. We always want to be in control. We always want to control the outcomes. There's always something that is not right, and I need to arrange it. And the numbers are not quite good enough. I want more. I want this person to do something different. Yes. Just let go for a while. Look, we can control our inputs, but we cannot control the outcomes. So let go of your attachment to outcomes. That's a very Buddhist, detachment, right?
Right.
The
and do you do this quite often?
The third noble truth of letting go of your attachment to outcomes, because that creates suffering.
Yes.
And whether we like it or not, corporates are places that generate a lot of suffering, because we always try to make things different and we hang on to it and we're like tense and angry and impatient. Just let go a little bit,
So this is your morning routine. You do this every day.
I have a long morning routine, right? I take probably an hour and a half every morning. So that is part of my morning routine.
Oh, okay. So any final words to our audience who aim to be successful CEOs?
I would say start with small steps. The 1,000-mile journey starts with the first steps. And so identify one thing that you would like to explore maybe a little bit more in depth. Spend a little bit of time in silence and solitude. It doesn't have to be 3 days or 4 days going to a monastery in a retreat. Just at home, spend 1 hour, disconnect your phone. Your devices, your phones are really, really bad for you because they distract you. So disconnect the phone and start noticing what is happening to you. And that's it. Start with that. And the rest will follow naturally.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kun Ken. Thank you,
Thank you for reminding something that, in us, but we forget for quite a while. And thank you so much, Kun Yam, for joining our co-host.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. ขอบคุณครับ
สวัสดีค่ะ
Thank you.